For the last couple of months, both teams and the league itself have been working on improving the formula of the Overwatch League, and as the results are now being revealed to us, I feel confident in saying that Overwatch League Season 2 will see an explosion of level of play on average across all teams. I will even go out on a limb and say that there will be a quantum leap in aggregate performance, possibly bigger than the improvement from pre-Overwatch League to Season 1. And if I'm correct, fans of high level of Overwatch will be in for a treat. This insight came to me despite the league expanding significantly, which logically usually results in a dilution, in a stretching of the talent, and therefore a lower level of play. I feel that there are enough counter-arguments to the level of play dropping, and I've organized them into different categories, the first of which being the rise of individual play and the creation of synergetic connections within the teams. So, the rise of individual play. We will see a lot more gifted and talented and accomplished players in the Overwatch League, simply proven by the fact, go through this in your mind, if you will. Think of the players that you thought were deserving outside the Overwatch League in Season 1, such as the entire Runaway roster, for instance, such as some of the KDP roster, such as the LFZ guys. All of those, if you put them in to the Overwatch League and also then let the bad talent that was possibly undeserving to be there, if they now leave the Overwatch League, this naturally elevates the level. So one of the reasons that the Overwatch League was now able to recruit so much of the quality talent is because Contenders is now being utilized and has also upped its production value of crazy good talent. And that is especially, or possibly only true for the top 4 regions, namely North America, Europe, China, and Korea. For the regions outside, I will say yes. We will need more time, more resources in these regions, also more eyes on them in order to give these people chances to A, become better players, and B, show off that they are as good as they are. So no argument from me here. There is still some improvement to be made, but within the top 4 regions, I think at least for the top teams, and in Contenders Korea's case, almost for all teams, talent or players were given fair shots to get into the league, and in many cases they have actually made it in. So one interesting development is if you go through the winners of the Contender season in these top 4 regions, all of the finalists, or rather all of the winners, have contributed players towards the Overwatch League Season 2, presumably based on the leagues. So let's go down the list. Runaways, of course, coming in as the Contenders Season 2 champion in Korea. That is a huge boon. Everyone who has some history, knowledge about Overwatch knows Runaway will be an improvement, most likely towards the Overwatch League. Personally, I think they could have been a playoff team, given the same resources as Overwatch League teams tend to get, and these players have the quality to be playoff level talent. But also not just the Contender Season 2 champion, but also the Contender Season 1 champion in Korea, X6, presumably has contributed some players towards the Overwatch League. They already, before their win, had given Choyobin and Architect to shock. Now, presumably, you know, the other great players such as No Smite, such as Gods, B, they are coming into the Overwatch League as well. And the fact that a team that sort of really underperformed in Season 2, but won Season 1, is a great message towards the selection process of these GMs. Because I personally believe that this over-recency bias thinking that, at least in my perception, a large amount of the community employs, is not actually empirically sensical in saying, okay, these are the only players that work. No, players that have worked in the past, as far as half a year ago, could still be absolutely nuts talent. For instance, such as an Anko, where Rogue wasn't coming in, but Anko was still an amazing talent, right? So if you pick these teams for their parts, amazing, right? So we talked about X6 being, you know, the Season 1 champion and then falling off. That same pattern is true in Europe, where British Hurricane won Season 1, then fell off as low as Trials, and are still sending players to the Overwatch League. For me, great development, because it means talent is utilized for more than a slight downswing. So in that, British Hurricane is in, but also Eagle Gaming, the winner of Contenders Europe Season 2, is sending some players. Giganti, the finalists, are sending some players. Not just players, but also coaches, very interesting. Fusion University, the 2-time winner in Contenders NA, is sending players, such as Elk. LFZ, the double Contenders China winner, is sending great players, such as Erster. So these teams are all sending their star players over. And while only Runaway has been wholesale bought out, as far as I know, it is still very interesting to see how much of the top level talent in these contenders regions are highly sought after. And it's not just the winning teams, but Overwatch League teams have also made an effort to look for these teams that's more of, middle of the pack, but are still there with their star level talent. One team that comes to mind certainly is for instance, from Europe, Snakes, with Kodak and Asking, and I won't make a distinction between two-way players and full Overwatch League level players, but I will say yes, they brought them in that regard. These gems from sort of not absolutely highest level of play teams, and the same is true for pretty much the entirety of Contenders Korea. Every team has been sourced as far down as Trials, so this is already pretty crazy. I think precedents like Boston, precedents like Jonak, precedents like Sado have paved the way for these players, so teams are taking chances on them. Even, almost perfect teams from the outside in terms of level of play, where it's very hard to find individual improvements, such as along in Spitfire or the New York Excelsior, are bringing in new talent. And in terms of London Spitfire, they are taking gambles on players like God, on players like Krillin, who show a lot of promise and can certainly develop into something great. Another thing that they're shuffling and mixing did is that a lot of these bench players that were there before, such as Closer, now gets onto other teams, and they don't just sit on the bench and get to elevate their level of play, because Closer is an above level player, and by having him play, which I presume he will be on Dallas, I think this once again elevates the level of play. The mixing and matching also created some amazing duos, especially. I will now name the example of Frontlines, where in Overwatch League Season 1, some of them were questionable. Now we have over half the talent pool, or the teams, with potentially star-level Frontlines. So let's go down the list, shall we? Fury and Gesture. Don't think that's arguable. Fade in Space. Try me. Mano Meko. Dako Pokpo, I think, will be great. Bumper Janu as well. OG and RCK have great potential. Poco and Sada have shown that they have something there. Fissure and Zumba could be great. Raw and Void are certainly one. Yes, more towards the sleeper pick range of the spectrum, but still have a lot of potential. Then Choi and Smurf. Choi is nuts. If Smurf can bring it up to his level, this will be a great front line. And then, as a full sleeper pick, I want to see Gaggery and Fearless, what they can do with a solid backline this time around. And I have to say, if I compare it to front lines from the first season, such as, for instance, let's take Muma and Coolmat, who by all means for most of the season were an above average front line in the Overwatch League Season 1, I don't think you could feasibly say that now. I think if I assess them at this point in time, they are not above any of the 11 teams I just mentioned. Other than Gaggery and Fearless, I think they could feasibly be above. I think, at least for me, and that might just be my biases, but I think that when all is said and done, all of the aforementioned teams will likely, or the vast majority of them, will place, in terms of performance, above Muma and Coolmat. And the fact that Houston wasn't able to augment their team, which is very unusual, actually, if you go through all the persisting teams from Season 1, that they didn't make any huge improvements other than Dante, is a problem, because by not improving, you are tremendously falling behind. I argue, simply because a lot of the factors are bringing in new talent, and by not doing so to the same degree that other teams are doing it, you are falling behind, I argue. That might not be a thing that they can fix. I'm not sure what's going on with GGA and Infinite, but it's certainly a problem for them. So, okay. So we have the utilization of contenders regions of the top 4. We have great pairings being made. What we also have is, and I made a video on this, young giants coming in, meaning that great talent that have proven to be doing it for a while are now coming in and are ready to prove themselves in the big leagues. They are finally 18. Players like Haksal, Flower, Leaf, Goucher, all these come to mind, and they are here and they want to take the top spots. Everyone is going for the crown. And most of the teams have actually said, we're not going the full PR route. We're mostly trying to absolutely win the Overwatch League or place as highly as possible. And there are only few teams, such as Houston, such as Paris, and arguably one of the Chinese teams, that have said, okay, we want to try it with a PR route. Even though, that said, I think this actually didn't decrease the level of the league in any way, because all of the teams I just mentioned have talent on them that absolutely should be in Overwatch League, and you couldn't possibly improve them as hard other than, you know, getting talent from other teams ahead of yours, meaning, you know, outbidding them or whatever. But in terms of the entire player pool, this doesn't change much. It wouldn't mean that more better players would be coming into the pool. It would just mean that we would have different mixes if these teams weren't going for the PR value. So there, I don't have a problem with that at all. That doesn't do anything to my argument. I think the level of play is still elevated in that regard. But why is it also elevated? What is one big boon that is coming in towards talent selection? It is, of course, statistical analysis. One of the biggest factors of statistical analysis is the things you can do before the Overwatch League season even starts, which is talent selection. You can sort through way huger amounts of data and find these possibly hidden gems in other regions, in lower level, you know, competitions, or really in competitions where not too many people watched. If you have these VODs, you know, accessible, and then can read them into your VOD reader. If that's possible for you, you can much more quickly sort through these and say to your regular analyst, okay, I found something. This guy is crazy. Look at him. If he meets the eye test, let's invite him. And this has been happening much more frequently now in Season 2. Not only are the persisting stats analysts like Wizard Young still in the scene, like, for instance, of course, BZ, but we're adding more. I already told you about Baroy. Other people like Baroy are coming in. There are entire statistic companies that are now taking part in this. The level of statistical analysis, both in talent selection and in also creating, you know, finding things about your level of play, the opponent's level of play, matters in general, small tweaks. This will all be upped tremendously because people are finally spending money on it, because there's some precedent now that this works. And I sadly can't disclose too much of that information. It absolutely did work. Empirical evidence is there. Statistical analysis is legit. So that is one tool that will certainly increase. But of course, we have to say, and I have to reiterate it at this point, and I feel like I'm blowing powder up its bum at this point, is the replay viewer, if accessible to at least the analysts in Overwatch League teams of all the Overwatch League matches. That will be a tremendous tool that will accelerate the level of analysis. You don't have to, you know, look through all the different angles, hope that the camera picked this up. Yes, I think they're getting more camera feeds, but it's not to the level, right? It's much more complicated than having one replay file, getting to choose your angle, getting to choose top-down view, developing that skill set as the analyst that does this much more efficiently, speed it up, whatever it is. But this tool in itself will accelerate the talent development and the level of play tremendously. I'm sure of it. So as we talked about the dilution of talent, not really dilution because we're dripping in high concentrated skill into the mix, but the addition to the scene, it's not just that new players are coming in, it's also that new coaches are coming in. For one, the new coach of London Spitfire, Coach 0815, I think he's called, bringing a vast experience of, esports in general. Then other very successful coaches, such as Saita comes to mind, the Giganti coach, who with very limited resources was able to build these two great Giganti rosters even beforehand, before the Overwatch League season or the contender season started. He was already a big name in Europe, was developing talent in Europe, mostly with Finnish teams. This guy is now coming in for Paris. Packing is someone that is coming in. I think a former drill sergeant, not 100% on that one. I think he's a Marine. Former Angry Titans coach is now going to the Valiant. This is upping the level of play. Then also, coaching staff teams are now split apart, get their own teams, and get to, crucially, improve the other coaching talent around them. So, Wizard Young comes to mind. Wizard Young, of course, before that with Pavane on NYXL, and now they get to split, and almost it's like a cell dilution, and they get to split up once again and get to, almost, inseminate these new coaches with all the crazy things they know about Overwatch, and the level of coaching will once again be upped in aggregate over the entire league, simply because there's now less concentrated, quality, while really not using, much towards the top, I think. If these people are worth their weight in gold, as I think they are, then they will be able to not just educate their players, but also their coaches on what the things they want from them and what skill sets for these coaches to develop. I think this will be a great improvement in that regard. It's also that all of the former coaches, all of the players have much more experience. They know what the experience is like now. They know what the drag is, right? All of this is very well known. And while the experience was almost a hardcore practice environment, now we're actually slowing down with the league a little bit, because we know that the league will now only be 28 games per team. That means a maximum of 2 matches. Yes, much like Season 1, but we will also see only 1 match a week. So you can focus on that 1 match, or sometimes you will have no matches, and then the next week you will have more time to prep for these. This was a proven concept in Apex, arguably one of the reasons why their individual matches were of higher quality, because the teams could prepare more for them. Well, forget about that, because now we have that time window, and we also have the resources of coaches, of environment. All of this is coming together. The greatest talent in the world, all in LA. This is a concoction that will, produce greatness. I'm sure of it, right? So all of this is happening, and unless something like stupid like losers pick comes in, which would then, have to force the teams to practice much more maps than they were in, or would have to in Season 1, because you had sort of a limited pool. I think the maximum you could have played was 12 maps. If you now still have the similar amount of maps, but every week, yes, that's a problem. I hope that is not the case. That's how they will do it. I have no inside information on that, but it is certainly something that could cut down on the overall improvement of level of play. Certainly not to invalidate my argument, though. So, okay, all of this said and done, one thing is very important, and that is also, if we're talking about level of play, because crucially, I said across all teams, one thing that I find to be incredibly true is that every team has accepted the fight in order to become better than they were, and also the majority of them are gunning at least for playoff spots. Many of them want to win the league. So, of course, let's start from the bottom. Shanghai Dragons, unprecedented levels of terribleness in Season 1. 0-40, this will not happen again. I can't even imagine an 0-28 loss team. And I think personally that also no team looks as terrible as that would be possible for them to go 0-28. Before this season, I didn't think they would be this bad, but I almost had a hunch that, you know, they weren't going to be amazing players. Now, even with improvements, you know, we talked about trajectories on this channel. It was very hard for them to come back, but now the Shanghai Dragons seem to have taken on that fight. They have cut almost all of the, or actually all of the dead weight, have probably cut one of the best players on their roster in the process. Ado, I still don't quite get that idea. He's certainly in though. So once again, he's still in the pool. No level of play being lowered, you know, in aggregate across all teams. But I will say that now Shanghai Dragons looks much like a much more competitive team, bringing in KDP players. This looks to be a solid team. I'm not sure if they're playoff level, but they are certainly not the worst team in the league. So this is great to see that they accepted the challenge and want to, you know, not rest, because you could theoretically build a brand in a league where there's no relegation on being the infinite eternal loser. That could potentially work, I think. So they don't want to do this, and that's great to see in terms of, you know, average level of play across the league. And this is also true, for instance, for Florida Mayhem, second worst league team in the league according to their record. They have almost cut all the fat, have gotten rid of almost all their European players, except Tivik. Not sure what he's going to do. But what I will say is, yes, Florida hasn't picked up the greatest Korean talent in that regard. They have tried to help Saya play a little bit out here, but yes, they are certainly, you know, not the most impressively looking team. What I will say there is, though, their improvement, or the, like, if, let's say, as a thought experiment, I think if the new Florida roster plays a best of 100 against their old roster, I don't think the old roster wins more than 20 games. So I think the new roster is improved, which once again works towards the argument that level of play is being raised. Next up in line is Shock. Shock's a playoff team. Shock is absolutely a team that has improved tremendously in terms of what talent they've brought in. The coaching staff is now coming together. They have more time to prepare all of this. Violet is nuts. They already had nuts players in Choi and Architect. This team is coming together. There's no way they're going to be, you know, even in the lower third, I predict, in the Overwatch League, you know, Season 2 regular season. I don't think it's possible for them. Dallas has tremendously improved, would be the next up the list. Have brought in, you know, closer, the argument I mentioned before. I think RCK is a great talent, have heard great things about him. If they can stabilize the fact, Arrow seems to be a very capable coach, their level is also rising. So it is very wholesome for someone that purely watches to enjoy high levels of play. It's wholesome to see how everyone is trying to get the crown, to get to what either, you know, NYXL or London Spitfire have done in the first season. And overall, it's crazy to see how much the level has elevated for all the aforementioned reasons. And I hope you can share in this excitement. Thanks for listening.